Ian Chait, live from the Orange Couch. You can see the Orange Couch behind me. It's been surviving a lot better than I have. Anyway, I've gotten some emails from you guys on my Gmail, Ian Arizona. Ooh, nice hair, Ian. Ian Arizona at gmail.com. That's IANARIZONA at Gmail. And if you'd like to talk about something, hear about something, have any questions, maybe you want to be a guest, we do have those capabilities now. And a lot of you were asking me where I've been. Well, I was doing 5 or 6 different podcasts with my buddy Lee. You guys might remember him on Black and White Recovery. We talked about that. We had a Epstein's Island conspiracy show that ended abruptly. And, real estate, mortgages, economy, music. We talked a little bit about everything. And, it was funny. The recovery one was really starting to take off. And those of you that know me know that I've given up a few things here in my 20s that, sometimes I try and talk to other people in their 20s or 30s that can relate. So, and Lee was the same way. But something made Lee quitting. And he was coming on the air loaded, talking about recovery, which he was in and out of relapsing. So I get it. He was 25 years. I mean, he had a long time. Unfortunately, to fast forward on Lee's deal is that he died in Las Vegas about a year and a half ago. He was found in a vacant lot that was next to a chapel that he had gotten married in. We really didn't talk the last year because he was just... So, it was hard. And he got mad at me over COVID. And in like 2019, I got into 6 car accidents in 8 months. And I didn't feel good. I didn't feel like going on the air. I had a busted knee. I was in a chair. Then the clavicle, and I got rear-ended, and the neck. And, it was just, I was a magnet. I don't know what was going on. I was sitting in a parking lot, in a parking space, on my phone, figuring, let's be safe. And somebody just slammed in the back of my car, and they kept going. It was weird. I had a little heart monitor going on, and that thing just fell off, and I don't know, ambulances showed up at the office. It was weird. But anyway, what really happened with me, I gained a lot of weight when I was recovering from the accidents. I couldn't exercise. Then I started exercising, started to take the weight off, and I was having some breathing issues, and there were a couple times I'd moved out to Chandler doing a flip with an investor out there, and was living in the place, and driving, I was like fainting or passing out or something, and my car, it auto stops, it stays in the lane. It's bulletproof. It's got all that stuff. Like I said, I was hit 6 times. I'm still walking, still alive. So, my heart doctor, he said, well, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the medication we're giving you. And he sent me to a breathing doctor because I was having, problems breathing. And I went to the breathing doctor, and she said I had asthma. And I'm like, do people normally get asthma in their mid-50s that haven't had it before? And she's like, well, sometimes it happens. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I got some damage from one of the car accidents. Anyway, she puts me on all this stuff. The nebulizers, the albuterol that I had to take 4 times a day, the disc inhaler, the emergency inhaler. I mean, it was just crazy the amount of stimulants I was taking. But I wasn't falling asleep anymore, but my breathing was getting worse. And I go for a breathing test. She's like, yes, your lungs are 77% working. I'm like, well, what's that about? She's like, well, let's up the dose and see what happens. And I went back a few weeks later, and it was 67. Went back a few weeks later, it was in the 50s. I'm like, Doc, I figure we got about 6 months. Otherwise, we're going to be at zero. And a couple weeks later, I decide I'm going to work on the cars, some of my old cars. I had a friend coming over early Sunday morning. It was a cloudy day. So I go to my mini storage because that's where I keep all my oils and antifreeze and fluids and transmission oil and brake fluid and all that stuff. But since I had put it back, I had sold the house, was getting rid of the furniture for the clients. So I'm climbing over my mini storage to get this stuff. And a gallon of antifreeze it's not light. A case of oil is not light. And I get everything in the car. I shut the door to the mini storage, and I can't breathe. And I'm like, what is going on? I took a drink of water. I couldn't swallow it. It was awful. Now I'm shocked I didn't remember the Richard Pryor deal when he talked about his heart attack, because I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was my breathing again. But I did know that if I didn't get on the other side of that gate in the mini storage, that nobody was going to be able to get to me. It was Sunday, the office was closed, nobody was around. So I made it through the gate. I've got 911 on the phone, and I decide I'm only 2 miles away from, or 3 miles away from Osborne Hospital. I could make it. And she's begging me to pull over. And I'm like, no, I'll never make it. And I'm still not breathing right, but I'm driving okay, which is insane. But she was right. I should have pulled over. And I'm going up Hayden. I'm passing McDowell. I'm approaching Thomas. She's like, please pull over. And at that time, 2 Scottsdale Tahoes, PD, they do U-skis right in the middle of Hayden Road. So they're coming after me. I hear the siren from the fire station on like 84th and Thomas. So I know they're coming. I said, listen, I'm pulling in the southwest corner. I'll be right in front of Dickey's Barbecue, which will be on the east side of the mall. I'm in a blue Cadillac. I'll be in a spot. So I backed into a space. Now the cops pull in, and they're like sitting 50, 60, 70 yards away, figuring out what they're going to do. And maybe waiting for more cops. I don't know. But fire engine rolls in, the other truck rolls in, and they get to work on me right away. I've got oxygen going, they got the EKGs, their blood pressure, and that panic that I had of dying on the ground in the mini storage because nobody could get to me subsided. So I'm a little bit more relaxed. And they're getting my blood pressure under control, and he thinks that it wasn't just one heart attack. It might have been a couple that I had that morning. And of course, the police come over. They're like, do you have any weapons on you? And I'm like, well, don't you? I'm like, come on. I'm like, I pick up rent in the ghetto. What do you think? I go, but you think I'm going to empty 3 clips into guys that are trying to save my life? Get out of here. And my blood pressure started to raise again. And so the EMT guy said, hey, go back over there. We're working here. And he says, I'm going to call you an ambulance. And I'm like, I might be able to drive the 5 minutes. He's like, yeah, there's no way that cop is not going to harass you if you don't leave in an ambulance. So I said, all right, call me the ambulance. And luckily it was in my network. I pictured, $3,500 mile ride from Thomas to Osborne. And I went to the hospital, and they get to work on me, call in case of emergencies. My friends come, my unblood related family, we call each other, and they're freaking out. And they're making me freak out a little bit. I thought everything was under control. Doctor said due to the enzymes I have in my blood, that I have had several heart attacks, and that this was a big one, and I have a couple of blockages. One's right on the curve by the Widowmaker, and I've got a couple of not total blockages. So I had a bunch of blockage. So they're getting ready to do stints on me. and they're making sure that I'm okay for the stent procedure, and I wasn't. So I don't know. I kind of passed out again, and I was woken up with Latin. There's somebody speaking Latin to me. I don't know why. I think it was from high school or something. I got a thing about Latin. I don't like it. I used to think it was, like Spanish. I wasn't raised Catholic, and I wasn't educated Catholic. So I'm thinking it's like Spanish from Spain is different than Spanish from Mexico, and Costa Rica and Portuguese and all that stuff. So I just thought it was a dialect. So when I found out what it really was, I felt really stupid, and I didn't like dialect. I didn't like Latin. So I hear the Latin, so I wake up, and I think he's giving me last rites. I don't know. I said, get this guy out of here. And, I said, I'm going to dance. I ain't going to die. And fast forward, they send me up to a bypass doctor up to Shea. And the bypass guy say, all your problems are on the exit of your heart. We do bypasses when it's on the way in. But you have an ejection fraction of 15%, 1.5. It's supposed to be between 50 and 60 is normal. So I was a third, quarter, if you go for the 60. And I said, well, where's all that other fluid going? He's like, it's choking you. It's gathering around your lungs. And I'm like, finally, I realize why I'm not breathing. It's a heart thing. It was never a breathing thing. And I was just at my cardiologist like a couple weeks ago. So they give me a new cardiologist, and they have a guy that specializes in curved stents. And he actually showed the cardiologist that they gave me at Osborne, who was a good guy. And they actually showed him how to do the stuff on the curve now. And, over the course of a month, I got 3 stents. I was put on medication. And my guy was still baffled. I'm like, hey, how come you're sending me for a bypass when everything's on the ejection fraction? He's like, you have other problems than that. So he tells me he's sending me over to the heart transplant clinic. Now, Mayo does all that stuff all day long. My insurance wasn't going to deal with Mayo, but they told me about Banner University, which was right by my house at the time. And I looked them up online. They hadn't lost anybody, but they were only doing it for about 3 years. And she puts me on some medication. They get me into cardiac rehab, which, I got to tell you, a lot of people were way older than me in there, and they're still competitive. And let's put it this way. If you have an 85-year-old competing with another 85-year-old, nothing's going to happen. They're going to have a good time. Sometimes one guy will win, sometimes the other guy will win. But when they're keeping up with me, I'm still, I just entered my late 50s. I was 57. So, 56 maybe. So they're trying to keep up with me, and I'm going to kill one of these poor guys. So I could, I asked them if I could have like a private cardiac rehab. They're like, well, they did it for a while as long as they could, but they're looking for a heart for me, and I'm not too crazy about the heart. There's like, if we don't find one, we're gonna do a bovine heart. And I actually, with my non-farming background, I forgot bovine was a cow. I thought it was a pig. And I'm like, I like bacon too much. And she's like, well, that's why you need a new heart. I'm like, okay, so? And the medication she had me on worked great. Now, I was hospitalized several times because my blood pressure dropped down to 60/40, and it was bad. It was a bad combo, and it was making me. But Banner put me on some great stuff, and next thing you know, I'm getting better. I think quitting all the breathing stuff, the nebulizer, the albuterol, the the steroid sprays, the discs, the inhalers. I think stopping all that helped my heart tremendously. I think my heart was having some issues, and all those stimulants just pounded it until finally it gave. And so I was getting better because I wasn't using the asthma medicine anymore, and I was getting better because of the medication they were giving me. And they're telling me I'm going to have to take 6 months off of work. I'm going to be in bed for 3 months. I don't want to be a burden like that to anybody. And I'm like, well, let's give it some time. I mean, we kind of improved. You know, we're up over 30% now. If we have an improvement like that over the next 6 months, I'll be normal. She's like, yeah, you're never going to be normal. I'm like, okay, we'll see. Well, needless to say, 6 months later, I was up to 50. They couldn't tell if it was 48 or 52, but I was up there. I was close enough. So they took me off the transplant list. And yeah, I felt a lot better. Now I still needed to get stronger. The echocardiograms, you know, weren't 55, they weren't 60, but it was colonoscopy time. And I asked the cardiologist, hey, can they put me under for colonoscopy? I'm due. And she's like, yeah, I think they can. They might want to turn off your defibrillator. They put a defibrillator and a pacemaker in there for me. And she's like, yeah, you better go get it. So, you know, and my colonoscopy dude is in Arrowhead. I figure if I'm going to see him once every 5 years, I could drive out to Arrowhead. Well, they put me to sleep for the colonoscopy. Next thing I know, I have my doctor saying, wake up, we found the mass, it's cancerous, we're admitting you, and you're going to have emergency surgery this weekend. Good luck to you. And he starts to walk away. And I'm like, hey, are you doing the surgery? He's like, no, I don't do surgery. Good luck. And he keeps walking. And if I could have got out of bed, I would have choked this guy. But I realized what he did. I was more pissed at him than it set in that they just told me I had cancer. Because, you know, it was like, I was just pissed at him. It didn't sink in. And my ride was one of my friends. She came in and she starts crying, and I'm just like, oh God, please, stop it. Stop it. It's going to be okay. I made heart failure. I beat that. I'll beat this. We'll see how bad it is. And they did like a 5-hour surgery on me the next day. And I don't remember coming to till about 4 hours after that. I'm sure in recovery, they're like, hey, you awake? And I'm like, and then I go back to sleep. But I was under for 9 hours, basically. I was in surgery for 5, which was long. But they said that my colon was twice the size of a normal person, which, you know, there's some body parts that get smaller as you get older, and now I know where it went. And I didn't need a colostomy bag, but they did do a resection. They took a bunch out. They took some lymph nodes out, and they sent it out. 3 weeks later, I go back, and you know, he tells me it's stage 3, that I'm gonna need chemo, and it's in my lymph nodes. It hasn't hit my liver yet. It hasn't hit my lungs, but it's in 2 out of my 3 lymph nodes, which is a lot. So I don't want to do chemo out in Arrowhead. You know, I live in the Biltmore. I don't want to do that. So I find a guy in the Biltmore. You know, I'm looking at a few guys, and this guy, you know, he kind of looks unethical. He looks like, you know, he looked like somebody I could get along with. And I was right. Dr. Cato, look him up. I think he's from a different country, South American, but, you know, he's got long gray hair like me. You know, and he kind of looked a lot smarter than the other pictures. So yeah, I did something right. Every 2 weeks I was going for chemo. Friends of mine would sit with me. I'd go home with the pump for 2 days, and it sucked. I mean, all my black hair matted up almost immediately and fell out. I had to get my hair cut short. As you can see, it's grown back. It's actually grown better than it was grown before. There were some thin spots I had that aren't thin anymore. So yeah, so the good news is, I mean, I had some infections in the middle of this and was hospitalized again, but I had a lot of work. So the work kept me going. And in fact, one of my mentees, he was telling the story about how he came with his laptop to help me, and we were writing a $4 million counter offer on a house from my hospital bed. And it was a funny story, actually. He was hesitant. He didn't want to tell people I was that sick, and I'm like, nah, you're a legend. He's a new agent, a good guy. So anyway, the chemo gets put off a month. I have to have my port replaced, all that stuff. And I wrap it up about September of last year. I was diagnosed in February, wrapped it up around September. So far, all the scans, cancer-free. I'm trying to get into another colonoscopy, but I don't. The stuff that they give you beforehand isn't working the way it should with me. So we're gonna find another avenue to so I can prep properly for the colonoscopy. So hope you're not eating while you're watching this. But you asked where I've been. That's where I've been. Now, Iron Chess Productions is in full swing. Chess is my mom's maiden name. My grandfather was a record producer in the 50s. Chess Records, look it up. He was one of the pioneers that helped blues become rock and roll. And so I decided to use his name, his last name, mom's last name. We're gonna have a lot more from the Orange Couch. We're gonna have Middle Talk Politics. We're gonna have some Arizona Cardinals coming in, and not the guys you see on the field every play. Some of the other Cardinals. We're gonna have some of the cheerleaders, and I know once that happens, we'll do it with the Suns. We'll still talk about real estate. We'll still help you with first-time home buying. We'll still talk about issues. In fact, I'm going to do a tape on my solution for immigration, and I'm going to do a tape on my solution for welfare, and it'll be a lot faster than this. You guys know I love talking about myself, but when I have a solution to a horrific problem, I'm usually pretty brief. So anyway, I'm glad I'm back. I hope you enjoy this. We're going to be on YouTube all the time. I'm going to try and get some of those old shows. I think they're on Lee's computer, and I don't know where that is. So, although I did get a memory on Facebook about black and white recovery, and I played it, and it played. Like, I can go to the black and white recovery page and try and play it and be like, it's not available anymore. But when I get the reminder on my own page, so I'll be posting them up there. I don't know if I can get it to YouTube or not. But it's good to be back. I hope all of you have been well. And, again, I've talked about certain struggles I've had in my life. If I could beat it, anybody can. You just got to have faith. You got to do the footwork. You got to be strong. You can't let it distract you. No distractions. So I keep not looking at the lens here. So it might take me a couple of shows to get used to this again. But grateful to be alive, people. I hope you're gonna be watching live from the Orange Couch, because it's gonna get a lot better. Bye now.